Hey guys, this is Capex with Badland Studio. Today, I'm going over D12. That's right, that means D12 is here, and it's getting pushed live later today. You can see in the background I am zooming in and out of a ship, and you may be wondering, where did the UI go? Everything got changed this patch, so I am starting from the main menu, so you guys will be able to see exactly what I'm doing. Click on load. I have this galaxy that I made for D12, and I'm going to launch just into the shipyard, and I am using the striker ship on this particular game. However, I'm going to click the reset button located in the upper left hand corner, click OK, and we are starting from scratch. Now, there are some things to get used to, such as you may be used to using the shift button and the mouse scroll wheel to scroll faster through when you're actually trying to zoom into a ship. And using the buttons that are on your keyboard still work, the greater than and less than sign. However, using the shift and the mouse button is actually changing your zooming speed. So once we're down here, you can see that I just kind of zoom out relatively slow. If I go way up, you can see how fast that zooms out. And I will be the first to admit that I still have to remind myself how to actually move around in this new UI. Like I said, it is brand new, so it's going to take some getting used to, everybody. Next, where did our modules go? Lower right hand corner, click on the arrow, and that is going to drag out your module window. Now you can see the CNC modules that we all know and love and we're used to seeing. You can also get to the hull, the engine modules, and then the miscellaneous modules through this particular window. Your sizes are controlled on the right hand side, so obviously that number is displayed 1 through 5. And your ship modules are displayed by being these basic blocks because, of course, these are your most basic components of your ship. Your weapon systems, it's the next icon over. Here's all those hard points. Once you place weapons, that's going to show up in your subsystems here. Same thing with your hangar systems. There's your drones, your DCM modules, and your hangar management. Hangar modules are still available as size 3, so you do want to bump that up to 3. DCM modules are going to be available as size 2, so again, make sure that you do have the right size selected for them. Customized, your paint scheme has been changed a little bit, but when you click on any of these areas, it does pull up that color profile that we're used to seeing. Something that's kind of cool is now we have the color profile as well as the paint style, so that paint style can actually give you a camouflage effect or a couple different looks, and I'll show you guys what those look like once I get a little bit further into the game. Now this video is going to take quite a while, so I am talking fast. If you have any questions, my goal is over the weekend to make a text version of this tutorial and get it posted up to our guides page. So this again is just kind of a quick dirty look to be able to see how to still build a ship, launch into space, and control things. I am building a size 3 ship, and that's just because I always want to be able to have drones on my ship. So I'm clicking on the C2 module, putting it over top of that cube, and obviously it's facing the wrong way. We can still press R to be able to change around, E and Q to rotate, and get that module placed. Now here's something new. We have connect part to ship that displays at the bottom. You can also press the spacebar button on your keyboard to do that. Otherwise, you can get this part to be able to rotate, if I remember correctly, by pressing the numbers 1 and 2 will turn on the rotational tool. Like I said, this is kind of a new thing for me, so you can click on these rings and it's actually going to rotate that module. So you can see how each of those works. Make sure this guy is still centered. Go back to number 1. You can click and drag to be able to modify the placement a little bit on the modules. So this will be able to allow for a little bit more fine-tuning as far as the placement of the modules go. Also, if you press the tab button while you're in this rotation tool, you actually get super fine-tuned movement. If you press it again, it goes back to that grid system. The grid system is displayed in this lower left-hand side. It says grid size indicator. The bigger that number is, the larger the chunks are of the grid that you're going to move pieces around. So we'll leave it set to an 8 right now. I'm going to get this part connected, and you'll be able to see when I add my first hull piece how choppy that is when we're using something so big. So you can see how it's absolutely just being super choppy. We're going to bump it down to a 2 or a 1. And notice that the piece is moving a little bit more smoothly. If you press tab again, you do get that full freeform. Now, something to take into consideration is that this part is balancing on whatever face it runs into. So we just want it to be flat. Now here's the cool part. You can actually click and drag, and now this is showing how you can actually have that overlap. You can have up to 25% overlap on any given module. So you can be able to actually move these parts around to be able to make them look like they actually belong together. Pressing the letter C is still going to release that object. I did that because I am using a larger hull. This is so I can be able to get my drone control module and my drone hangar put on here. I am going to move it forward a little bit though, and up just a smidge. So that way it is connecting with that CNC module. Click connect part to ship, and now the parts are in place. Our subsystem window is still the same as what you're used to seeing. So you can see that we added the sensor. That's going to be our number of lock targets that we can have, and it's going to show you the sensor range, things like that, and our armor that you're all used to seeing. Yes, the subsystem manager is a little bit different now. Next up, I'm going to add an engine. My personal favorite is E3. Either that, or, well, I guess the E3 second row down, far column over. Drag it so it fits up into this module, and then about like that. Connect the part, add my subsystems. Fun fact, my personal favorite for all of the engine subsystems that I can have is engine 3 size 16 for this particular size. The reason for this is that you get 1200 pitch and yaw thrust, and everything else you can find a way to balance out with your engine thrusters and those, or your engine boosters. That's these little guys up here, but they never give you additional forward thrust or additional pitch. So if you want to have pitch, you need to get that with your actual base engines, not any of your engine boosters. So I pick one that has the most amount. That means I can go up and down pretty agilely. This brings us to a perfect point for me to show you guys how to open up some of our menus, because you may be wondering, okay, so I've added thrust, but how do I know how much mass my ship has? Upper right hand corner, guys, general ship info, thrust, sensor, kinetic field, and cargo. All the information that you're used to seeing is right up here. So we have our ship's mass, durability, power needed, all of the thrust values that we have, our sensor values, our kinetic field, everything like that is all going to be displayed in that upper right hand side area. We add that reactor, you can see that's throwing that power up there right for us. Same thing with that kinetic field generator. Now that we have that, it actually shows us the activation on that kinetic field. I am usually pretty careful about not overbuilding my ships. If any of you guys have seen my previous examples of shipbuilding, I do tend to keep them pretty small. That's just kind of a personal preference. I know we have people who just build awesome ships and they're huge and they're amazing, and that's totally fine for them, but it's just not my style. So I'm going to place an engine, and we have our grid mode turned on. You can see it's kind of being choppy here. And this is going to be a perfect example for me to show you guys our mirrored placement. So yes, that means you can place 2 modules at once. I still have my engine, it's, you know, attached to my mouse. I'm going to click on the mirroring module button right there. And we have X and Y. Y means it goes from, let's see if I can get it put up here. It means it's going to mirror from the Y axis instead of the X. Typically I use X. And check this out. As you place the module, it's going to find it on the other side. Now you can flip the mirrored object around. So say we get this put here. You can click the flip part and notice how it's changing that mirrored ship part over there. And this is only changing the mirrored side, obviously. Another cool feature is now that we have these 2 parts placed, anything we do to one side is going to happen to the other side. So I've gotten those 2 additional engines placed, click connect, and now they're in position for my ship. I do have to apply their subsystems individually to them. And again, I have that favorite engine. If you're wondering why I'm not adding boosters, it's a personal preference. I try to keep all my power available for my drones, just kind of the way that I am. So I do tend to just add the base engines to these because the boosters are actually pretty expensive in terms of power. Next up, I'm going to add my hangar bay. And if you notice I still have the mirror mode on, I don't need 2 hangars. So if I just click on that mirror icon again, it goes away and I'm down to just the one hangar again. We will get this guy placed roughly where we want him. Click and drag. Let's just get him centered up on the ship. Click on connect. Again, same thing with the subsystems. Fun fact, as of last patch I think it was, I figured out the fastest way you can have drones launch from a drone platform. First thing is to add a drone bay. It's drone bay 2, size 12. Got a drone hangar volume of 30, which means a maximum of 30 drones if they're the smallest, weakest drones. Otherwise, the larger drones, you may only fit 1 or 2 of them in there, but you will be able to launch them quickly, which is nice. Next, I add the drone launch platform. This is the size 16. My reason for this is the drone launch time is 12 seconds, which is pretty short when you take that compared to, let's say, the size 2, which takes 45 seconds. I don't want to wait 45 seconds between my drones launching. No thanks, especially if I have a ton of drones. So I add the 12-second launch platform, and then I'm going to give myself a launch rate modifier. So we have 2 of them at this point. I mean, we're at 28 out of 30. And the one I'm selecting is the one that's going to adjust my launch rate. So you can see this one decreases launch rate by 25 seconds and dock rate by 15. This one's the inverse of that, so it decreases launch rate by 15, decreases your dock rate by 25. I want my drones to launch fast, so that's the one that I chose, the one that decreases the launch rate. It says by 25. We do have it capped out where drones cannot launch faster than, I believe it's 2 seconds, or possibly 3. So this is going to be able to make it so my drones can literally launch as fast as humanly possible. Next, DCM module, because it does not matter if you have a ton of drones on your ship. If you don't have a DCM, you can't launch them. So I'm going to place this module, and I'm going to show you guys something kind of cool here. It's yellow right now, but we actually set it up so you can still temporarily place that module. So we know that we want it here, but it's not going to fit. So now we can actually use the sliders to slide this piece into position so we can actually have it somewhere that is a valid location. In my personal case, I'm going to move it kind of back directly underneath of that drone bay. Connect part. On that drone, we do need to make sure that we are adding a drone control. It's listed as a sensor, but it is considered a drone control, so keep that in mind. The size 8 sensors are the ones that are going to give you the most power one way or the other. You can either have something like 10 drones out and you can only control them for 25 kilometers away or 25 meters away. Otherwise you can do it with 5 and 38. For me, I usually go with the 5, but for case of just example, I'm going to go with the 10 in this one. So now I technically have everything I need to be able to launch drones from my drone control module. Notice that I do have a tiny bit of gap between my drone control module and my ship. Just like you can have 25% overlap, you can have a very small amount of gapping between modules on your ship. This gives you the ability to have a little bit more versatility on that shipbuilding. Next, our drone hangar management. So that's this third button. Placed hangars is this guy here. If I click on it, it's going to highlight the hangar and show me what drones are in it. Obviously, right now we don't have any drones in it. I add, just as a habit, I usually add 5 mining drones. That builds me up to a cost of 10, and then the rest of my drones I used to always do kinetic or energy drones. Those are just the two that I tended to lean towards. So I added 5 little kinetic drones, or 5 little energy drones, excuse me. Next I'm going to add a larger missile drone, a larger kinetic drone, and I have 5 spaces left at this point. So I can add a little bit more. I'm going to add this heavy energy drone. So right now I can have, what, 8 drones out that are all combat oriented. Having that sensor that allows 10 drones out right now is going to definitely help with me being able to have a few extra drones to help protect me. With that being said, drones aren't the only way you protect yourself. Weapons, definitely also another thing that you want to add to your ship. Now with our hard points, you can mirror them. Get them placed however you want on the ship and be able to move them around, things like that. Notice that they do rotate together. In my particular case, I'm not going to be using the mirroring on them. It's just a personal preference. A lot of our players love the fact that we have the mirroring options. For me, it's never really been a huge deal because I don't build huge ships. The Capex methodology behind adding weapons is add as many as I can before my module count gets to be too high. You can see in the bottom left corner that module count is currently at 9, and as I add additional parts, that module count goes up. We do have some people that use what's called extreme module counts, and that ends up being something along the lines of like over 80 is when you hit extreme, and that's when you can actually notice a performance hit. So keep that in mind. If you are going too crazy with your shipbuilding, you are limited by your computer. We can't completely negate any issue of hardware that you have on your system. So I'm going to rotate this guy here and get that placed. I try to have at least 1 of every type of weapon on my ship at all times. At least 1. Usually 2. And just like you guys are used to, you can still right-click on Modify and be able to rotate. I do use my E and Q keys a lot to be able to rotate parts. So right now we have 2 missiles, 2 energy. I need to get some kinetic weapons on here, and then I also need to make sure I have a couple anti-missile systems in place. Oh, this guy's a little bit far out. Let's move him forward. Let's see how that looks. So I'm going to add my kinetic weapons to this one. And like I said, if you happen to like the mirror placement, it is an awesome feature. I do know a lot of our players have already been using it in the development build. It is a brand new feature that we have, so it's not something that I can guarantee won't have any tweaks or changes to it in the future, but I can tell you that if we do any tweaks or changes to it, it's only going to get better. I got those parts placed. I'm going to throw a couple pieces on the back, and I am actually going to throw some larger weapons on the back. Just because I'm running away from someone doesn't mean that I'm not willing to take them out, right? So that's a big old missile behind me. Let's get this guy pulled up. Let's see if we can get him moved over a little bit. Oh, come on. There we go. Got AMS turned on here. AMS is anti-missile system for those of you who are not familiar. And the way that works is if an enemy shoots a missile at you, the AMS is going to take it out automatically. That means you don't get to assign it to an actual weapon group, but it will take out incoming missiles for you. I'm going to put an AMS right on the nose of my ship, provided I can get this guy placed properly here. Alright, so I got the part placed. I'm pretty sure it's backwards at this point, so I am going to get it rotated. Once I add the anti-missile system to this, I'll definitely be able to tell whether or not it's facing forward, because obviously the missile system is only facing one direction. So all I have to do is right click, modify. I can do all of my normal rotation, or I could use the widget. The widget is available as well. Get it bumped up just a smidge. There. Okay, it's not exactly centered. Much better. Okay. So now I have a ship. It's got, I don't know what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know. I have a few guns. I have my drones. I have my drone control manager. I need 4,000 more power to my ship in order for it to fly. I don't know how many more subsystems I have available. 6. I don't think I can get that. 4,000. I'm still a little bit short. 2,000. Ha! Alright, so I have enough power. I have a kinetic field. I have drones. All I have to do now is name my ship. K-Pix D12. Hello. Save. Fun fact, if you have anything that's overlapping weird, it won't let you save your ship. So if you see anything that's yellow, it won't let you save it out. Information, that's going to let you get the community forum open. Obviously, I'm going to close out of that because you guys don't need to see mine. The game guide, once that is available, the Steam Workshop, and our company website, so you can actually go visit us online if you want to. Weapon Manager, you guys have seen this as of D10, I believe is when we started introducing the Weapons Manager, or D11, so you can be able to still change out those weapons and what's assigned to what. In my case, I have this mega missile on the back, so I do want to find out which one that is. That's this one here, and I want to assign it its own weapon group number 2. That's just in case someone is flying up from behind me. I want this to focus on them instead of the target that all the rest of my missiles are focused on. The smaller your weapon is, the more agile it is, but the shorter range it has, and the less damage it does. So if you have drones come up to fight you, which you will as of D12, surprise, enemies can now launch drones, you will want to have the size 1 weapons to be able to take those drones out. The little star icon will be a feature that we'll be adding at a later patch. The store is obviously where you can go and select what size modules you want, things like that. If you ever need to buy ammo, click on trade goods, and your ammo is going to pop up in your trade goods. You can select what you want to buy. It'll tell you what the cost is, and then you just click on buy. In our particular case, I don't believe we actually have any money right now, so in this particular game. Your inventory is everything that you have available to you. So you have your ship inventory, which is the stuff that's on your ship itself. Then you'll have your station inventory, which is everything you have the ability to buy and things like that. The repair window does work, from what I understand. If you click repair all, it will have a cost associated with it, and that's how you will repair your subsystems of your ship when you take damage and you go back into the shipyard. Your credits shows you how much money you have available to you. Again, all these icons on the right, you can click and those will go up and down. You can share on the workshop here. You can load previously created ships. We have the mirroring tools, which is whether you rotate forward, backward, up, down, left, right. Flip the part, which is going to be, it's going to invert the geometry, and it's either just going to flip it on its face or flip it on its front. Switch between the rotation tool and those lines. I showed you guys that earlier with the CNC module. And the translate tool, which allows you to move the object all around. So I'm going to click on launch. Hopefully I have all the necessary components. I don't know how durable my ship is going to be. I didn't really give it a whole lot of actual, like, legitimate durability. Let's see what my top speed is. I'm usually really careful about making sure I have a lot of thrust, a lot of forward thrust with my ship, but this time I was more focused on just getting it created. You can see that our planets have been cleaned up a little bit, so they're not quite as vague looking, if you want to call it that. Pressing the letter T will still toggle on your kinetic field and turn it off for you. Your drone control manager, your map, all of this is still going to be the same. Map, you can zoom in and out using your mouse scroll wheel, click and drag to be able to move around. Show hostility of various sectors. If you want to get into a fight, we're going to have to warp to this place over here. And notice that we do now actually have it show how long it's going to take to get somewhere. So watch us align. And we have initiated warp to that location. We have also hooked up jump drives, so if you have a jump drive on your ship, you can jump to a certain distance away from you, regardless of whether or not there is a jump gate available to you. We're waiting for our warp drive to cool down. In the meantime, we are just going to travel without having our kinetic field turned on. I'm warping to that jump gate, and then I'm going to move to the hostile sector just so I can show you guys how the enemy combat is going to be working now. It is more challenging than it used to be because enemies now have the ability to warp to you, which means it's going to be faster. They're going to show up in seconds instead of 10 or 15 minutes, even once you see their icon. Enemies are also able to launch drones, which means that if you have a ton of ships that have drones and you upload them all to your save file, the enemy ships can use them. If you are wondering where your save files are at, those are located in your Steam app folder. I'm getting mine pulled up right now so you guys will be able to see it. And we do have one enemy that spawned over here. Alright, this is a perfect example. So this enemy is hostile to me. And its faction is hostile to me. He is 900 kilometers away from me. So right now he's not actually warping to me, which is nice. But if all of a sudden we see his speed change a whole lot, that means he's actually in a warp. Moving over, here is my save files. So it's every ship that I've ever made. Well, okay, it's every ship that I've ever made that I haven't deleted. And anything that I subscribe to that I've also saved again into my shipyard. So the starter ships, these are those two ships that you see when you first launch the game and you get to pick which one is going to be used. Galaxies, obviously this is the galaxy I'm in. Factions, these are all the various factions that I may run into. And if you go into one of those faction folders, you can actually assign ships just to that faction, and then you can limit what ships they can use, or you can give them every ship and make them super strong. color profiles. These are all the default color profiles, and that includes anyone that you've made. Like I made blues and confused. I also had one called Barbie, I think, for a while. That was a whole bunch of pinks. So this file is located, again, it's in my particular case, program file, Steam, Steam apps, common, kinetic void. The data is where your output log will be stored. Oh, super. So he's warping right now. As you can tell, he's going really fast across my screen. And it looks like he's actually getting further away from me. Oh, he's running into this guy over here. Sweet. Alright, so they're a ways away. I'm going to see if I can get close enough to them where I can actually see them fight before they get done fighting. And if I can, I'll let you guys see how enemy factions fight with each other. Okay, so here comes another one. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this guy over here go help, or this guy back here. I am going to keep my distance. I'm going to warp within 100 kilometers of them, not within 50. Just seems like it'll be a little bit safer. And it looks like they killed each other before I got there. That is so sad. Alright, while I wait for my field to recharge, or for my micro warp drive to recharge, I'm going to go back to that warp gate again. I'll keep showing you guys where stuff is on your computers. Again, this is for PC only, so if you're a Mac user, you use the Controls app, I believe is what it's called, and you can dig into your Kinetic Void folder that way. So once you're in this area, I mean, the display config, that's the dimensions of the game. The exe file is the actual launcher, things like that. If you go to your user data file, though, in Steam, the 5510770, that's my user number. The 227160, that is Steam's app ID for Kinetic Void. If you go to remote, these are all the ships that you have subscribed to. So obviously I have a very small subscription right now, just because I try not to have tons of ships all the time. So anything you upload to the workshop or you subscribe to from the workshop is going to be stored here. So keep an eye on that. If you want to get a hold of one of those ship files and you ever need to upload it to me or email it to me, this is where you're going to get it from. Back we go to the warp gate. This time we're going to fly through the warp gate and we're going to warp to an adjacent area so we can actually get into some combat. For those of you who were concerned about not being able to get to the warp gate fast enough, as soon as you come out of warp, go full speed, press the letter T so you turn off your kinetic field, and you'll notice that you can get to that warp gate much faster. And yes, the warp gates do have a different texture effect to them than what they used to. Here's a waypoint that's above me. That's the little quest that popped up. That's where that's associated with. Click on Make It So. Now when we come out of this warp, I'm going to be in a hostile sector. So I may or may not be getting attacked by enemy ships. I'm kind of hoping it's a not, so I have a little bit of time to be able to get my bearings. Alright, where's this guy at? I'm just going to lock onto him just in case. It's an Irwin drone carrier, which is awesome, because that means if I fight him, he's probably going to launch like 40 drones at me. It's not even remotely intimidating, I promise. All of a sudden you see all these little triangles coming at you. He also has 66,000 health versus my 24,000. He has double the shield strength is what I do. So he may be able to crush me. I don't know. It's not a guarantee, but it's very possible. The Oberon Freighter, on the other hand, it's a little bit more my speed. Yes, it has drones, or it can have drones, but it doesn't have as much shield strength as I do. So I'm going to go get into a fight with this guy over here, and we'll see if his friend decides to come help him out. I'm glad I slowed down. Alright, let's get locked on him again. We're still about 1,000 or 1,800 kilometers away, so it's going to take us a little bit to get up to him. I did drop out of warp a little bit prematurely. Pressing the number 1 assigns my first weapon group to him, in case you ever forget. G opens up your weapon manager, and clicking on any of these will actually show you what specific gun you're looking at that point. I'm going to lock onto his friend just to see if his friend ends up warping over to help him. Hopefully he doesn't. I do have all of my drones ready to launch. So once I get close enough to this guy, I am actually just going to launch my drones and see if I can take him out. Obviously I'll use my guns as well, because I might as well. They're there for a reason. And then also use my drones. If you notice, my speed is increasing exponentially, so it is just getting faster and faster and faster. And that would theoretically keep going until I hit the threshold of the game when it wouldn't allow me to go any faster. I see this other guy. Notice how fast his speed is changing. I somehow don't feel like he is getting that much closer to me that fast because of how I'm flying. Enemies can also turn off their kinetic fields, so they can travel faster than they used to be able to. Just so you're aware of that. Alright, so I'm now 200 kilometers away from my target. I'm going to start launching my drones. I'm launching them all individually. My reason behind this is I like being able to control each drone, and I can send my drones after multiple targets if I want to. So if I have 3 drones I want to go one way, one another, I can actually do that. So now since I have all 3 of these targets locked, it's going to keep me updated with what my distance is from them. So I will be able to keep an eye out on whether or not these guys are getting too close. Oh! So this is bad. This is a Dragon Beast MK4. I should not have allowed it to be in my save file. It's huge, and it's covered in guns. So hopefully I kill this guy before this gets to me. I didn't really pay attention to it beyond its icon. The Jaeger, which is back over up here, it's 5,900 kilometers away, not a huge threat to me. Not too worried about him. This Tradco courier, he's obviously coming to come help his friend. And it looks like the dragon may be running really slow, so that may be able to keep me safe while I'm fighting this other guy. All my drones are circling overhead. You can see my little army of drones up here. I'm gonna drop him, pick up this guy. And I'm going to send all of my drones after this guy, this Oberon Freighter. Now I did just drop my kinetic field so I can pick up speed. You'll notice that my drones will start falling back behind me a little bit, just because they'll have a harder time keeping up with me. Alright, so he is close enough to start shooting at me now, and that means I'll be close enough to start shooting at him here pretty soon. Notice that my relationship has changed with his faction. Obviously they have issues with me shooting him. there go all my little drones to go try to fight him. I should be able to take him out pretty effectively. See, that wasn't so bad. Although, the dragon just used their warp drive, which makes my life a little bit different, but I'm going to bring all my drones home, the ones that made it through the fight. Clicking on the return, the dock will open up and the drones will dock. In case you're curious, the drones that are flying around right now, they're not mine. And the ship that I'm fighting is one of mine. I think I called it like the New 2 or something like that. You can tell it's one of mine because it's absolutely tiny and all it has on it is a drone bay. Alright, so I have this guy behind me. And I died. That was on me for letting my drones get put back in their docks. I probably shouldn't have done that. I probably should have left them stay out. So now you can see all the parts of my ship that are damaged. Sad. Let's go click on repair, repair everything. And it's time to get all of these ship parts moved around to make sure that they are ready to go. And then we can actually launch again and get back into space and see what kind of trouble we can get into.